All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider post-game show. This is Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler, standing here on the court at Spectrum Center. Ryan, if you go back to Thursday's game, we talked about it being a drama-free victory for Tennessee. Well, tonight's game was anything but. It wasn't a pretty game, but Tennessee was able to do the NCAA tournament motto of survive and advance to their second consecutive Sweet 16 appearance.
No, you're right. It was not pretty at all. It was very ugly. It was never a moment where you really felt great. But like you said, Tennessee finds a way. They play great defense. I thought they were just tougher than Texas, and they found a way to produce just enough offense to pull out a big win.
Yeah, Rick Barnes said it to start his press conference, and I agree with him in a lot of ways. He said, hey, look, when you shoot like that, especially in this tournament, that's the way you lose, and that's the way you get upset by teams. But Tennessee's defense was able to come through. I thought that Tennessee's defense was stifling, especially there in the first half. Texas's guards are good players, especially Max Aceman in a tournament setting. But Tennessee's guards were able to shut him down. They used Jemai Meshack. They used a whole lot of Zakai Ziegler. But I really thought that Tennessee's guards kind of set that tone defensively. They're really good on Texas's guards.
Yeah, they were. And like you said, especially in the first half. It felt like the second half as they played some more minutes or a couple more breakdowns. But nothing was easy at all for Texas in the first half. And, I think Aceman had 4 turnovers. Tyrese Hunter had 7 turnovers, both those guys. I think maybe Hunter scored briefly over his scoring average, but Aceman, who's the go-to guy, was held under his. I think maybe shot 3 of 10 from the field.
Yeah,
they were fantastic. It was a lot of Zakai Ziegler on Tyrese Hunter, a lot of Santiago Vescovi and Jemai Meshack on Max Aceman. And you talk about them, I'll go to a guy I think was probably my MVP of tonight, Josiah Jordan James. What he did defending Dylan DeSue, I thought was just massive. I mean, he's given 3 inches to him, and he locked him down. I think he shot like 4 of 18 from the field. That was a big part of what I thought was a really good game from Josiah Jordan James.
You know, when you talk about Josiah James, a lot of the times his versatility, it comes out as a cliche. But I think especially when you set it for a whole season, you said it a lot last season, however long it's been. But these are the kind of moments where it really does come into effect and it really does impact a game.
Yeah, and I mean, it can fall on deaf ears when he's not making shots and when he's having some maddening offensive stretches. And tonight, he wasn't like he was just unbelievable offensively, but 9 points. 2 buckets later, reverse layup, which was a really nice pass from Jonas Aidoo in the last 5 minutes. And then I actually think that one maybe came later. But he had a corner 3 on a night that Tennessee was, 3 of 28, something like that from 3. I mean, they couldn't make anything.
16%, something along those lines. 12% for the game. Rough.
Yeah, rough indeed. And
Rough.
James hit a big one in the corner at one point. So I thought a number of guys were pretty good for Tennessee tonight. I don't think anyone was maybe great. Tobe Awaka was probably great in the minutes that he played, but the foul trouble kept him from probably having just a fantastic game. But yeah, James I thought was just huge tonight for Tennessee.
Yeah, Tobe Awaka's exact quote in the press conference after the game was, I wanted to play aggressive. I also wanted to play controlled. Obviously, I picked up a couple fouls. That certainly did happen. One more story from the press conference world, though. Josiah Jordan James told a story about how they were in the bench late in the second half, and Rick Barnes looked at Zakai Ziegler and he said, hey, you haven't come out of the game yet so far. Do you need a break real quick? And Zakai looked at him like he was crazy. He said, no, put me back in. Zakai Ziegler ends up playing all 40 minutes of the game. Rick Barnes called him an Iron Man. Josiah Jordan James called him a superhero. And while he didn't have his best shooting night, certainly against Texas, Zakai Ziegler still continues to be that engine that Tennessee runs so much through. He impacts both sides of the floor so much. In a game like this where a lot of it is sort of mucky and a lot of it's sort of gross, he's still a reliable guy, even if that shot's not falling, to do everything he can to create that offense.
Yeah, no doubt. And you probably don't like the 4 turnovers that he had tonight. And somebody I give credit to Texas. Texas is a really good defensive team on top of Tennessee, just not shooting well. And Zakai got in some late clock situations where he had to force some stuff. So he wasn't at his best, but he still was really important, and I thought really solid. 7 assists. There was one early in the game I thought he didn't get credit for it. He would have been an 8. At an 8th, he had 3 or 4 steals. Like I said, he guarded Tyrese Hunter. Tyrese Hunter turned the ball over, I think it was 6 or 7 times. He did a lot of stuff that was really good. And on a game where even when he wasn't playing well, you couldn't take him out of the game. That's how it felt. And it's funny that story came up because it didn't feel like they were ever going to. That was ever on the table. They were going to take him out tonight. And you talk about the numbers as a whole, but just the fact that Zakai and Dalton, 1 of 8 from 3. Dalton ended up getting, I think, 16 or 18 points, more than you would think. He hit some free throws late. Zakai, I think, had maybe 7 or 8 points. Jonas Aidoo wasn't great on the offensive end. Tennessee found a way to win without those guys, and it was obviously mostly defense. But Awaka had some big plays. Josiah hit some big shots. Even Jordan Gainey gave Tennessee some points. So you, again, kind of saw that this team is more than their stars. They can win in different ways. And that was huge for Tennessee tonight.
Yeah, it's funny. Rick Barnes talked about it yesterday during sort of the pregame press conference that sometimes you play well overall, but you just don't shoot great. I don't necessarily feel like Tennessee played great otherwise, but they did enough to win. And at this time of the year, again, going back to the NCAA tournament motto that everybody knows, comes down to surviving in advance.
Yeah, and I'll say, well, I got two last things. So I'll use this one for my first thing, and if you have a thought on it, we can go to my last thing. The free throws down the stretch, just so important. I mean, you could see disaster looming for Tennessee. They're up by 2. They have the ball. There's 5 seconds between the shot clock and the game clock. Texas has fouls to give, so Tennessee's going to be shooting it into 1-and-1, and then all of a sudden they're forced to inbound it on when, finally Texas is at 6 fouls. The next foul, Tennessee's going to shoot free throws. Forced to inbound it to Jonas Haydu, who's not just a terrible free throw shooter, certainly not a great one. I mean, you've heard me call it. I've kind of called him a 1-2 merchant at the line. It feels like he always goes 1-2. He steps up, makes both free throws to make it, I think it was maybe a 4-point game at that point. And Texas doesn't go away. I think they get a basket. Dalton Connect. Not a good night for Dalton Connect. There's been this story all year. He's missed some free throws for Tennessee. He steps up and makes 2. It feels like, I think that maybe got it to 5, actually. Tennessee, it feels like, okay, now you're fine.
Yes.
Tyrese Hunter goes down and drills a 3. 4 seconds left. Connects, fouled again. It's 2 free throws. Even to the very end, you missed that first free throw. Texas is going to have a scramble drill with a chance to win on a 3. What probably would have been a 3 with, I think, 3.7 seconds. Free throws, Tennessee was just great there tonight, and I think there's something, to me at least, that's impressive about that on a night where otherwise you just shot so horribly.
Yeah, I agree. I'll say one more thing. It's not really a point, but just a couple of stats to throw out. Tennessee shoots 34% from the field and 12% from three-point line. Those are not winning numbers. Tennessee, though, has outscores Texas 15-5 from turnovers, 36-20 from points in the paint, 12-6 from second chance points, and then bench was pretty close. But those are a couple of winning numbers right there. So just kind of goes to show that not everything might be going right, but you just got to do enough.
Yeah, and the rebounding to me was a huge one. It just felt like they out-toughed Texas, and I think offensively,
42-36.
42-36 overall. Tennessee missed 8 more shots in the game too, so a lot more opportunities for rebounds for Texas. I haven't run the offensive rebounding percentage numbers, but I'm sure that's kind of drastic. Ready for my final thought?
Go for it.
You've already heard me say it. We were talking to Burt Bertelkamp before we started recording. I was saying to him,
I almost led the show with this because I thought it was so good.
Felt so much like 2 years ago for Tennessee. They come out in the opener against what was Longwood that game. St. Peter's this year, they shoot great from 3, over 40%.
Yeah.
Beat the dog water out of a low seed. And then they come out today in round of 32 in a game with all the pressure where everybody expects them to win, and they shoot horribly. I think it was 3 of 23 that game 2 years ago, even worse tonight. Obviously, they make 3 of them. They found a way to win. I think that in a lot of ways shows the growth of the team, shows the improvement. It's veteran guys. And then the last one, good thing they weren't playing Hunter Dickinson tonight. It's a good thing Texas' star big man was 6'9".
That's right.
And 225, and not 7'1" and 260 or whatever Hunter Dickinson was. But that's all a wash. Tennessee gets over that hurdle, and now they head to Detroit, where last I saw as I left the Tennessee locker room,
It's cold.
well, it's cold. Creighton and Oregon were in a real tight game. So we'll see who they get. And I guess actually 1-1 last thought.
Yeah.
Much more reserved Tennessee locker room compared to last year after they won in the round of 32.
Okay.
Much more. Obviously, everybody was happy.
Sure.
Last year was very, very celebratory. This one felt like a very much job's not finished. Josiah Jordan-James, after he talked on the podium, came to the locker room, plopped himself down on a chair, was fielding questions, and not in a disrespectful way at all. He didn't look at anybody. He was watching completely nonstop the Oregon-Creighton game. He said, that's where our focus is. This was great. This was the first time we'd ever gotten this group had ever gotten the Sweet 16 last year. We want to get past it this year.
There you go. North Carolina advances out of the Charlotte region with a win over Michigan State.
Yep.
Tennessee advances out of the Charlotte weekend with a 62-58 win over 7-seed Texas. Again, it wasn't pretty, but Tennessee did enough to survive and advance. We will see you in the Motor City. Ryan and I will be on our way here in just a couple of days. I believe Tennessee's going to have the Friday-Sunday slate. Is that correct?
Correct.
There you go. So we will have tons of coverage coming to you. We're going to wrap up here from the Spectrum Center tonight. Obviously, nonstop coverage going to be coming until Tennessee gets to Detroit for their second consecutive Sweet 16 appearance, trying to get to the Elite Eight, and then who knows what is beyond that. Brian Shumpert, I'm Rick Butler. Thanks for listening to the Rocky Top Insider postgame show.